Hi, my name's Jennissary, producer of live and interactive audio description at Descriptive Video Works. I'm a white woman in my early 30s with curly blue hair, wearing a floral dress. Having now produced audio description for several different games, we've had the luxury of trying new things and setting new standards. We've advanced beyond hypothetical scenarios. Now, Ross and I are here to show you what challenges arose during production of audio description on Mortal Kombat 1 and its effect on players.
Hi, my name is Ross Minor, and I'm a blind game accessibility consultant and content creator. I'm a white man in his mid-20s with light brown hair, and I'm wearing a long-sleeve blue button-up shirt. I've been a lifelong gamer and listener of audio description, and have collaborated with Descriptive Video Works on a variety of projects. But most importantly, I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. Fighting games have been notoriously popular in the blind community due to their 2D environment, stereo audio, and character-specific sound cues. And now, NetherRealm Studios is testing their might by adding audio description to Mortal Kombat 1. Before we begin, a very important content warning. Several sections of this video will contain uncensored violence and gore, everything from decapitations, dismemberment, and lots of blood, all of which will be audio described. A friendly reminder that sensory rooms are available at the venue. If you're sighted and would prefer to cover the screen during the gory sections, a translucent white bar will appear at the top of the screen and slowly run down when one is about to start. Then, a hashed red bar will appear for the entire duration of the gore. Once that goes away, you're clear.
For those who have never heard it before, audio description is an alternative audio track where a narrator describes key visual elements. It's primarily intended for viewers with visual or cognitive impairments, but like many accessibility options, it often has benefits beyond the target audience. It can be found as a spoken language option on most major streaming services, such as Amazon Prime, which I'm showing here.
Bold silver letters outlined in gold orbit the Earth and come to rest in front of the equator.
Audio description is typically done for movies, TV shows, and live events, but is still relatively new in gaming. There are many quality standards to ensure descriptions are rich, concise, accurate, and objective. I've listed a few of those standards here, such as don't describe over dialogue and show, don't tell. You might be surprised by that second one, but the idea is to not draw conclusions on behalf of your audience. Rather than informing them of what you think, give them access to the same information that you have, such that they can hopefully draw a similar conclusion. So what does this look like when it's in a game, and how much value does it really add?
I'm going to play a scene from Mortal Kombat 1 without audio description. However, the screen will be completely black so you can experience exactly what a blind player would. Try to visualize in your mind what you think is happening based on the audio alone.
Incompetent. Oh, that works. I have had enough of you. Then go.
So it's immediately apparent that people are fighting, judging by the grunts, crashes, etc. But that's really all you're able to determine from the audio alone. You may occasionally hear a metallic object swishing through the air, but that doesn't really tell you much. Some immediate questions you may be having are, who is fighting? Where are they fighting? What weapons are they using? And most importantly, who's winning? Let's rewatch that same scene, but this time with audio description and visuals.
Kung Lao watches Sub-Zero kick Raiden into a pillar from the balcony. Raiden looks up, then climbs the pillar to the level above. Sub-Zero eyes him, then kicks two legs out from under a table, turning it into a ramp. He uses it to vault through the air and kick Raiden on the upper level. Raiden staggers into a bar counter where a man drinks. Raiden grabs a cleaver from a pig's head sitting on the bar and swings it at Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero weaves around the blade and Raiden slices off the cap of the man's liquor bottle. He pours it into a cup. Sub-Zero blasts ice at Raiden, freezing his hands to the bar. The man plucks a bit of the ice and drops it into his drink. Kung Lao throws his hat at Sub-Zero's head. It bounces off harmlessly. Smirking, Kung Lao shrugs.
Incompetent.
Kung Lao chucks a circular chakram decoration. It nicks Sub-Zero and plunges into a wall.
Oh, that works. I have had enough of you. Then go.
Okay, let's unpack everything that just happened now that we have much more context. Remember when I told you to visualize in your head what you thought was happening? Well, I'm sure you now realize that what you thought was happening and what you heard from audio description was drastically different. Now imagine that for a fully cinematic campaign without audio description, and imagine how much context would be missing. Fortunately, you don't have to because the entire campaign is described. First, we've learned that Kung Lao and Raiden are fighting Sub-Zero. The manner at which they are fighting has also been revealed. Instead of hearing dubious grunts and crashes, we now know that the fighters are utilizing their surrounding environment to aid in the fight. Furthermore, we've learned that Sub-Zero definitely seems to be the more capable fighter. Lastly, the humorous moments that give the fight its personality are able to be experienced, such as the man at the bar dropping Sub-Zero's ice into his drink, or Kung Lao throwing his hat at Sub-Zero's head, an important foreshadowing detail into the development of Kung Lao's signature move. This is just one scene though. Having these details described in an otherwise entirely visual medium really give the characters and the story depth that blind people are able to latch onto and experience alongside sighted players. Now that you've heard an example of what audio description sounds like, I want to highlight some examples of how audio description helps players overall, but also in Mortal Kombat specifically. As we observed, audio description provides important information that would otherwise be missed, and often game-changing information. Consider the previous clip. Thanks to audio description, we now know what's happening during the fight, where the fight is taking place, and who we're about to fight, which is really important in fighting games. Audio description also provides information into narrative events that may change the state of the game, such as the boss changing forms in the middle of a fight that would alter the types of attacks a player would face. So how do audio descriptions help in Mortal Kombat 1 specifically? Well, for starters, everything in the campaign, from the action-packed choreographed fight scenes to the brutal fatality details, or the unique character designs, would be entirely lost on blind gamers. Another important detail is that audio descriptions really increase player engagement and retention, and this cannot be understated. For me personally, I rarely completed the campaign in past Mortal Kombat games unless it benefited me in the game in some way. Now with Mortal Kombat 1, I completed the entire campaign because I was absolutely invested and engaged in the characters and the story. Did you know there are several fatality-based achievements in Mortal Kombat 1 and other Mortal Kombat games? In the past, when I had to complete these kinds of achievements, it was a lot more of a grind and not very entertaining because I didn't know what was happening during the fatalities. Now, I'm much more incentivized to complete these achievements and experience and discover all the fatalities because they're audio described. Especially because in the past, blind gamers would have to look up text descriptions of fatalities online, and many times they were very inaccurate. I figured I would use this opportunity to showcase my favorite fatality in the game.
Reptile rushes at the victim in his lizard form and turns invisible. He bites down on their head, then swallows them whole as he turns visible. He vomits them out in a puddle of acid and bile. As the victim's skin burns, Reptile smashes his hand into their head, pulverizing it. Blood gushes out.
Fatality.
I often tell people that in regards to audio description, you don't really know what you're missing until it's been described to you, and that is definitely the case with this fatality and all other fatalities in the game. Next, players often choose characters they want to play based on how fun they are, obvious. However, players also choose their fighter based on their design and their backstory. Now this too can be a deciding factor for blind players. Lastly, my favorite fact about audio descriptions is that they really require no learning curve whatsoever, unlike other accessibility features. All a player has to do is turn them on and they'll immediately benefit. Audio descriptions are more than just describing what's on the screen. They really bring to life all of these characters and provide players these details that they would miss. And that's just really huge, I think, for the longevity of a game. Because now that I have all these details, I'm going to want to go talk about it with other people. I'm going to want to go talk about it online. It's important to remember that not only do audio descriptions help blind players, but they also help others reinforce what is being seen, or learn a new language, or even look away from the screen temporarily. With that being said, let's jump into the bloody details of how audio description was created for Mortal Kombat 1.
Now that we've had the chance to produce audio description for a couple different games, we can speak to real challenges we've encountered rather than hypotheticals. The general workflow looks like this: 5 high-level steps. Unlike other accessibility features, the majority of these steps happen very late in development. The only one that can happen early is step 1, where you'll want to create an in-engine framework for narration to eventually be inserted. All remaining steps will occur just a few short months before release, because we want the visuals to be almost finalized. So when we start on step 2, writing the script, those descriptions are accurate for what the final game is actually going to look like. Step 3 is for a professional narrator to record and master that script, and step 4 is to insert the sound files of that narration into the framework created in step 1. Finally, you'll want to test and solicit feedback to ensure the audio description is seamless and immersive. We've now learned there might be a few additional considerations in our script writing which are unique to games. First, character names. What happens if a character has more than one name? Normally, we just call them whatever the dialogue calls them, but in games, you also have to consider in-game menus or other places where that character's name might appear. Mortal Kombat, for example, includes a roster of characters who you can choose to play as during specific game modes.
Choose fighter, player 1, Scorpion.
But the names of characters in the roster don't always match their names in the story.
Liu Kang looks to the upper level. Smoke, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and the other numerous Lin Kuei warriors get to their feet.
Some names are more like titles or nicknames, so do we use their title, which appears more often in game menus, or do we use their real name, which is used more often in dialogue? We opted for the titles in this case, but we might decide to do the opposite under different circumstances. If you're playing through the story mode, you might decide that you love playing as this man Syzoth. His combat style really suits you, and his moves are absolutely brutal.
Reptile's tail ensnares his victim to ragdoll them around, who then crushes their chest in his maw.
But if you try to find Syzoth in the roster, he's not going to be there. Reptile is.
Player 1, Reptile. CPU opponent.
Unless you know this series very well, you'll probably be confused about who's who. For that reason, all the characters use their roster names for consistency. These kinds of situations can be common in certain game genres, and creative decisions can be made collaboratively between the game's studio and the audio description writers. Another naming challenge is handling actions which can be undertaken by multiple characters. Fatalities and super moves, for example, could target dozens of other characters, which would require us to narrate thousands of versions of the same script. While hypothetically possible, this didn't really add a whole lot of value for the player. Instead, we opted to use a neutral naming and pronoun convention for these segments. Each target is the victim with neutral they-them pronouns.
Baraka punches his victim and pulls out an intestine. He strikes his forearm blades to start a fire. He throws the victim and holds onto their intestine to roast them. More Tarkatans enter and they tear the victim's limbs off to feast.
There are even situations where both the attacker and the target can be different characters. For these, we called the aggressor the attacker or the hero, just as a couple examples. On to my favorite challenge in this example, the extreme violence and gore. We first had to ensure that everyone involved in this project was comfortable working with this sort of material. It's not every day you get to write, narrate, or mix scripts like this.
Kano stabs the victim's shoulders, then beams his eye lasers through their skull. Kitana flings her fan blades into the victim, leaps, summons the fans back, and drives them into their skull.
In audio description, the tone and vocabulary of the script must match the source media, and our descriptions must be accurate above all else. No pulling any punches. We needed to be every bit as violent and gory as Mortal Kombat was. Instead of someone's skin simply being removed, it is flayed or shredded. Instead of Melina biting someone, she ravages them.
Melina pins the victim's arms to the floor with her side blades, then ravages their torso with her jaws before biting out their throat.
This was wildly fun for the team to make, but we're all probably on a list somewhere for our Google search history. Synonyms for disembowel. Oh, eviscerate is pretty good.
As I mentioned previously, fighting games have been notoriously popular amongst the blind community, so much so that there's an entire community called the Blind Fighting Game Community, or BFGC for short. Back in 2013, Carlos Vasquez, a blind Mortal Kombat player, attended EVO, one of the world's largest fighting game tournaments, to compete in Mortal Kombat. While there, he caught the attention of NetherRealm Studios, which encouraged them to include their very first blind accessibility feature in their game, Injustice. A few years ago, Carlos created the Sento Showdown, an all-blind Mortal Kombat tournament. Here's a clip from Season 3 of the Sento Showdown, where blind player Captain Earshot lands the final blows on his opponent, making him the 3-time reigning champion of the tournament.
Plus frames! Oh my god! Critical health for a teal killer! This could be it!
That's it! Captain Earshot is your champion once again! Oh my god!
Hopefully that clip emphasizes just how passionate the BFGC is about fighting games. But isn't it poetic that 10 years after talking to NetherRealm Studios, Carlos has returned as one of the accessibility consultants for Mortal Kombat 1 to make it the most accessible Mortal Kombat game yet? We thought it would be appropriate to show a compilation of various blind players experiencing and reacting to the audio descriptions, just to show how much more enriching the cinematic experiences are for blind players.
Liu Kang throws a fiery punch. He releases colossal glowing dragons that chomp the victim's arms to haul them into the air. He saws and drives their head to the ground, which splits their body in half and crushes their head.
Now, do I need to point out that you can hear the individual halves of their body falling? I don't think I need to point that out, but I just want to point it out because it's awesome.
Scorpion slings rope darts through his victim's sternum and neck. He pulls.
Well, there's your fatality. This is really, really good. I'm loving this.
It's just amazing. I can't get enough of it.
Gore wallops the victim in the face.
Big wallop. Appropriate descriptive word. Goro wallops. He be walloping.
Harvick headbutts the victim to the floor, then pummels them. His own fists break apart into jagged, stabbing bone. Liu Kang chokes his victim and shoves them through a passage into outer space. A black hole siphons off the victim's legs, then their intestines and skin. They thrash until their neck snaps and their skeleton gets sucked in.
Good God, and listen to that audio too.
011.
Oh yes. That is the fatality that says I am a god. Dude, I love it.
I want to hear it again.
Melina pins the victim's arms to the floor with her side blades, then ravages their torso with her jaws before biting out their throat.
Oh, that's so gory. Oh my god.
It is so good. I mean, I enjoy Mortal Kombat stories anyway, but actually being able to understand it is just brilliant.
It is the duty of mortals to finish it.
Yes.
Over a vista of mountains and red-leafed trees surrounding a shimmering lake. Mortal Kombat 1.
Chills. Do you guys see the chills on my arms? I got chills.
The man plucks a bit of the ice and drops it into his drink. Kung Lao throws his hat
He's like,
at Sub-Zero's head.
whatever.
It bounces off harmlessly.
Oh, this is epic.
Fight.
Raiden staggers into a bar counter where
Smashy.
a man drinks. Raiden grabs a cleaver from a pig's head sitting on the bar and slings it at Sub-Zero.
And the audio description is absolutely stellar. Pretty much the reason I'm enjoying it so much.
You know, this has been probably one of the most enjoyable story modes I've played this year, especially with the audio description, man. I'm so overwhelmed by how amazing watching these cutscenes and playing this with audio description is. It's just epic.
Thank you so much to Super Blind Man, Aegon K, Xerxiax, Sightless Combat, and of course Ross for letting us use their footage. An important note is that as we were leafing through these live streams to find reactions to the audio description, it was surprisingly difficult to find people commenting directly on the descriptions. What happened far more often was people reacting to the story itself. They were fully immersed in the narrative.
And this is how it should be for everyone who plays, a fully immersive experience. There's always room for innovation and improvements in future games, but if there's one thing for sure, audio descriptions in Mortal Kombat 1 have been a flawless victory.